It's March 3rd, Tuesday. I'm speaking with Salimah Valiani, who is an independent researcher on immigration issues. Salimah has been informing me about some rather startling changes to the immigration system, which, although it's been debated rather prominently in Canadian politics in the last year, I don't think a lot of Canadians are aware of the implications of the changes to immigration in Canada. Can you tell me a bit about that, please, Salimah?
So I'll put it in a story form. We are a country which is vast in terms of area and quite empty in terms of population. So the way that we have built this country, both in terms of population and labor force, as well as citizenship, is we have brought people in who can work and contribute and live a healthy life. People for at least the past 50 years have been coming in as permanent residents to Canada. When you come as a permanent resident, it means that you come with your family, you come with protection under all the laws of the land, you have access to citizenship within a certain period of time, and you have the right to live and work in the places of your choice. What has happened in Canada in the past 2 years is that we have opened up a way for employers to bring people in on temporary work permits. So workers come in as temporary migrant workers. They cannot bring their family, they cannot live where they want, they cannot work where they want. And after a period of 2 years, we have now allowed for some employers to choose certain workers to stay permanently. So that, in a nutshell, is the big change that we've seen, especially in the past 2 years. In June 2008, the immigration law was changed to effect all of these larger shifts.
Now, temporary workers have been able to come to Canada for some time, and I understand that after 2 years, caregivers have been able to become permanent residents. But the change is now that other workers will be treated the same way. Is that correct?
That's exactly it. Through the Canada Experience class, our newest immigration program, some temporary migrant workers in a range of sectors will be allowed to stay permanently after completing 2 years of work, and once their employer puts the stamp on whether they can stay or not.
So that employer has a lot of control here.
So already employers had a lot of control over temporary migrants because these are workers who come to Canada needing the jobs. They have no legal protection, so they are under a lot of stress to abide by the measures of the employers. And now, if we dangle this carrot of permanent residency, it gives employers yet more power over the workers. The link with the live-in caregiver program is that is the one program in Canada that has functioned in this way for the longest time. So it's the only one up until a year ago that allowed migrants to become permanent after 24 months of work. When we study that program, what we see is that, as it turns out, only half of workers coming in as temporary live-in caregivers actually ended up staying for between the years 2003 and 2007 as permanent residents.
And that's because we can presume that they couldn't last 2 years with their employers for one reason or another.
Exactly. The advocates of live-in caregivers have been saying for some time that this program is very difficult for workers because the employers are not being monitored and the contracts are not being enforced by governments. And when we look at the numbers, that is verified. So workers end up changing employers. They then have to re-begin the 24-month cycle, and they end up going from one temporary work permit to another, forever temporary.
And now, as I understand it, this pattern is becoming the predominant pattern for immigration into Canada, where formerly you could just apply to be an immigrant. Now, more and more immigrants are being forced to go this route through these temporary permits.
Exactly. When we look at the numbers again for temporary migrant workers in general, We see that in 2000, there were 90,000 migrant workers in Canada in various sectors. In 2007, it was more than double. It was just over 200,000. When we look at the live-in caregivers, a sector in high demand, right? Given that in Canada we don't have childcare, we don't have home care system for the elderly, we don't have enough systems to care for the people with disabilities. So we demand live-in caregivers from abroad. That program is bringing in workers at an even quicker pace. In 2005, we had 7,000 new workers coming in. 2007, we had 14,000 new workers coming in. So in general, we can see that the temporary migrants are becoming larger and larger in number, and the permanent residents are steady at around 200,000. And recent numbers released by Citizenship and Immigration Canada show that last year the temporary migrants coming in was about equal to the permanent residents, around 200,000 in each category.
So the trend is definitely going up in terms of these temporary migrants and probably down in terms of the conventional immigration.
That is most likely because now that government has changed the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, it allows the Minister of Immigration to set which types of workers will be able to stay permanently. So the minister will decide which sectors need workers, and from there will choose the temporary migrants or people with a work contract to come and stay permanently.